So cool. How many are not from Colorado?
Rise of the humans.
Have fun. Creativity, strategic thinking, problem solving.
My name is LaMothe. I am a Salesforce MVP. I have it, but I'm not wearing it, the golden hoodie, because it's very bright. I don't know if you've ever seen one in person, but you immediately feel like there's 100,000 eyeballs on you, which is weird. But so yeah, I'm here to talk a bit about my area of expertise around what was now formerly known as Pardot, now called account engagement for some terrible reason. So this is mostly just going to be around the sides of Pardot that are not necessarily for end users, but are for the people who are on the core side, people who are going to be seeing it in different ways outside of its marketing use case. Before we kick it off, I want to make sure to shout out the sponsors. I've had a chance to talk to a few of them, and I'm sure you guys have as well. I can speak from experience as somebody who also works on a Dreamin' conference that they are nothing without the sponsors. So make sure that you give the sponsors your time, attention, and because without them, this and any other Dreamin' conference simply just ceases to exist. So yeah, a bit about me. I work for a company called BDO Digital. It's a larger firm, but the Salesforce side of it is pretty small, and I'm on that Salesforce marketing side as a senior solutions architect over the account engagement side of the business. MVP, Golden Hoodie. I manage the Tampa Pardot community group, and I'm also part of the planning committee for Florida Dreamin', which is happening in October. So, FYI. So a bit about what we're going to go over today. So I realize I got 20 minutes. It's not a lot of time. There's a lot of stuff to go over. So if I speak fast, I apologize. Feel free to come up later and we can dig into it in more detail. I'm going to talk a bit about the Salesforce Pardot connector, some of the concepts around connected campaigns and asset syncing, the new Lightning email and landing page builders, and the Salesforce CMS, how those all relate to each other. This newer concept called external actions and activities, data transformation, data cloud integration, custom object syncing, and sandboxes. I realize it's a lot. I'm going to try to get through it. First, just as an FYI, this is, if you've never seen a Pardot before, or account engagement, this is what it looks like in Lightning. It is a Lightning app. Used to be its own pi.pardot.com standalone type deal. And now for the last several years, it's existed in Salesforce Lightning as the Pardot Lightning app. This is what it looks like. And this is what everyone sees when I log in. It's not terribly exciting to look at, but this is where it all kind of starts. I want to talk a little bit about the connector. So Pardot and Salesforce connect through a integration user. Up until the last couple of years, it was a individual user that had to consume an actual full Salesforce license, which was painful when you are a org that counts your license as being very precious. They did away with that when they introduced the new connector, which auto provisions a connected user that does not require a Salesforce license, which is huge. Everything between the two platforms goes over that effectively. And then once the integration is set up, it auto provisions a series of permission sets. The account engagement connector user, integration user, the account engagement package, and the analytics view only user. These are some of the auto provisions. So when you deploy the package, it automatically provisions all these plus the connected user. There are apps that exist, obviously the account engagement app. And then within that, there's what's called the B2BMA canvas. This is a step that often will kind of get forgotten about when you're trying to do a standard kind of a stand-up of Pardot, because you can say, all right, cool, it's set up. All the permissions are great. And you're like, why? I just get this spinning wheel. Why can't I see anything? It's because the actual canvas is what needs to be, you need to be able to see that. It's the thing, it's within the picture frame. It's the thing, the actual app. So B2BMA canvas, it's in the app manager. You got to go and you got to give the profile, the profile administrator, whoever, permission to be able to see that. Of course, my stuff is coming up because I didn't sign myself out. Whoopsie. All right, it'll go away. So the other thing that is part of it is this brand new thing called marketing setup. So you're familiar with Salesforce, the setup. There's a marketing setup side of it that is its own area. When you go to the little gear icon, you drop down and it says marketing setup. It kind of collects everything together, where if somebody on the marketing team were to come to you saying, hey, I need help, they would be able to tell you, oh, just go to the marketing setup side. It's all there for the most part, and it'll give you a lot of the information that you need. This is something that is it's kind of a critical piece of account engagement in Pardot related to the integration. This concept called connected campaigns. Up until, originally, there was a Pardot campaign and a Salesforce campaign, and they didn't talk to each other. Now, Salesforce campaigns are the master. So Pardot campaigns as a individual item doesn't exist. So a campaign is created and managed in Salesforce and then gets created down into Pardot to connect the Salesforce campaign with your Pardot activity. So this is what it looks like in the connector in Pardot when you're trying to set up the standard. So right here you see there's a master type, there's a master record type. If you have a org that has multiple campaign record types, you can select which campaign record type comes into Pardot and which one does not. Because if you've got sales, like a specific sales record type or a geo or a specific product record, if you've got a lot of different campaign record types, you can be specific about the ones that come in here. There's a checkbox over there that says use Salesforce to manage all campaigns. That's the checkbox that says, all right, Salesforce manages everything. This basically means that everything from a campaign perspective in Pardot is kind of read-only. You can't create, delete, anything like that. And then this one up here called Enable Campaign Member Sync is also important, because what that does is, and this is something that often gets confused, is Pardot/account engagement is all about first touch. So when somebody gets created net new in Pardot or account engagement, and then they get synced into Salesforce, if they don't already exist in Salesforce, they will automatically be created as a campaign member to the source campaign that they came in on. So if they fill out a form and there's a campaign associated with that form, if that campaign exists in Salesforce, they will automatically get added to that campaign with the member status of connected. So it's like a kind of a somewhat inert status. It's more of just to tell you this person has been connected via this campaign. That is what Campaign Member Sync does, and it allows you to create that campaign member in a kind of meaningful way. So sync prospect to Salesforce when they're associated with connected campaigns. So when I say associated, it means converted. Like that. Like what is their conversion campaign? Speaking of the integration and the connection, there's something that I think is kind of underrated and kind of not fully understood. When you have this connection between Pardot and Salesforce, one of the cool things you can do is you can sync the marketing assets into Salesforce. And so, for example, if you create a list email, a form, a landing page, those can be synced down into Salesforce as their own objects. And so you can then take these assets and their performance and use them for reporting. And then in this, you see as a list view on a campaign. So the benefit here is when if a marketing person comes to you and says, hey, I need to be able to see more information about this campaign because I did a landing page and a form and whatever, you would be able to say, okay, cool, these assets exist. I can add them to the campaign record type or to the campaign page layout. So when sales or marketing needs to see the kind of the all-in view of the marketing performance for the different assets that are in account engagement, they can see it right there. It'll show you the unique clicks for the links, the marketing forms for submission and views, landing pages, submissions and views, list emails. If there were some there, it would show you like how many were sent, the clicks, the click-throughs, and all that good stuff. Each of these are their own object and have their own page layout. So when you go to like the list emails page layout for an email that you sent, it's going to be in there. It's going to see how many was sent to, the click-throughs, the opens, and so on. All those pieces of data are then reportable in a traditional Salesforce report to be displayable on a dashboard. So if you were to want to display marketing performance alongside opportunity performance under the banner of this larger campaign, you could, because of the integration between Pardot and Salesforce. And that's is what this kind of functionality of connected campaigns and the what's called the V2 connector enables, is you're able to pass objects over this integration between the two platforms, kind of further reducing the amount of daylight between the two. There still is some, but it's increasingly going away. And it's through things like this that if you're if you're an admin, a developer, whatever, and you suddenly start seeing these random objects called marketing link, it's because it's a marketing asset. It's a custom redirect. It's a tracking link, list emails, landing pages. These are all things that were created in service of marketing, but are part and parcel of the larger Salesforce ecosystem, like your larger Salesforce platform, if for whatever clouds you're using that are able to leverage these different tools. This is just showing up as a result of Pardot. Speaking of landing pages and emails, one thing that I did want to make sure to mention is that Salesforce, and I want to say it was probably 2-ish years ago, they rolled out with the Lightning Email Builder. So the previous builder was a very kind of, it existed within the Lightning app. It was its own deal, did not live in Salesforce in any really meaningful way. And what they've done is they reinvented it and they made it drag and drop, but it no longer exists in the Lightning app. So this is now a Salesforce-centric experience. It looks like the app builder, the app manager. So everything in here, when you're building an email now, you're building the email in Salesforce. You're not building the email in Pardot. There's still some connective tissue to Pardot at the campaign level. So because you have to associate an asset, an email, with a campaign. And so that campaign is in Salesforce, but you're building the asset in Salesforce, and it's still kind of relating to Pardot in some ways. But the email builder, they did this with. The landing page builder, they did this with. And in the next couple releases, they're going to redo the form builder. The form builder is going to look like this. So the cool thing about the landing page builder is there's an entire app exchange specifically for account engagement. Like, there's not a lot there, but there's a few cool things. And there are partners that have rolled out solutions that will show up here. So if you need to add like a video, or you need to add some kind of survey or whatever, you would be able to drag it in there to make your landing pages more dynamic, more interesting. And this lives in Salesforce it's called landing pages, or it's called list email, or email content is what it's called. And email content and email template. And it's a full drag and drop builder, but it leverages Salesforce CMS. That's one thing I want to make sure to note. When you go up here and you were to, like, this is the image here, and there would be, like, if I click that, there would be an area that say select image. So if I select image, it's going to ask me, okay, let's go to the Salesforce CMS, and it's going to ask you to select an image and upload it there. How it used to exist is these assets existed exclusively inside of account engagement. They had no visibility, no relationship to Salesforce in any meaningful way. It couldn't be used, it wasn't visible. What this does is it makes it so that these assets can be used really anywhere. So it's not, so you can, if you have an image that you upload for the purposes of an email, and you've got a Experience Cloud site somewhere that might need that image as well, through the connectivity of the CMS and things like that, you can use images in a more kind of collaborative way. It makes it so it's not this kind of walled garden of account engagement. It opens it up where these images become available to many others. This is a relatively new feature that is much more technical, but at a high level, Pardot/Salesforce introduced this concept called external activities and external actions. The purpose of this is to basically to open up the ability to ingest and read data from other systems, and to be able to kind of parse it through Salesforce and then into Pardot for automations. So for example, Zoom, if you have a Zoom webinar or some other third party, and you're able to integrate using the post, so this is activity. So it's gonna read the activity from this third party, and this is the developer world. So I'm not as familiar with it as I'd like to be. I'm planning to become more familiar with it, But if you were to be asked, hey, heard about this cool thing called external activities using invocable actions, would love it if you could help me build this. This is what they're referring to. So what this is basically, it's going to grab the information from this third-party tool, pull it through Pardot and Salesforce, and then make it visible to read in account engagement. So this is the activity piece of it. It's related to, so it's called the test marketing app extension in this case. And here's the API endpoint. Pass activities to account engagement, assign the extension to one business unit, then copy this API endpoint and use it with an integration service or the associated app. So they give you kind of the building blocks of it. And then from there, you need to use the integration to make it really move. This is the other part of it. This is the action. So this is sending data. So the other one, activities, was reading, saying, okay, we've got Zoom webinar, we've got something else that we want to be able to see it, pull it in, and make marketing action happen. This is the inverse. This is the activity. So this is a view of what's called a engagement studio. This is the kind of automation canvas within account engagement. And this is one of the modules called, one of the nodes called action. And so down here, once you've set up external actions, so action uses invocable activity to call a third-party system and securely pass information using that triggers a task in that system. So post an action into another system. So this is where this would show up. Once it's set up, say, okay, post action to Zapier. So if you're using Zapier to connect Salesforce to this other service to register somebody for an event or post them to another database or something, it allows you to do that. This is, again, a more technical thing that I am not as familiar with as I'd like to be, but I'm becoming more familiar. But as a developer, architect, whomever, this may be something that if one of your marketing people were to become aware of this, and think, hey, I heard about this thing. I don't know what an invocable action is. Don't know how to create one. Can you help me build this? This is what they're referring to, is being able to push and pull data, either read it or post it somewhere else, or bring the data in to be able to do marketing, perform marketing activities. Kind of using Salesforce as the methodology to pull that data in. The other thing I want to touch on really quickly, and I'm running out of time, but Pardot does not do data transformation well, or really at all. And so when I say data transformation, I mean there's a value on field X and I need it to be passed to field Y to copy it. Pardot can't do that. Salesforce obviously can. Formula fields, flows, whatever. This is a scenario that happens all the time with me where I have to outsource this to Salesforce, say, okay, I've got this value. I need a formula field to pull this value and post it to this other field so I can then sync it down to Pardot. That's an example of that data transformation. Pretty basic, but unfortunately it doesn't do it that well. So this is where someone could come to you as an admin and say, hey, I need you to build this custom field for this formula to be able to pull this value into a text field that I can use in Pardot for a list. I realize that was really fast, but hopefully that made some sense. And so that's an example of that. Formula fields, flows, other tools, etc. So account engagement can only see fields in Salesforce where the connector user has read access to the field. That's something else that's important. Is if the connected user can't see it, Pardot can't create it to sync it for a custom field to be able to do anything with it. And there's a lot of, I realize I'm running out of time, but there's the other thing I want to make really clear is that around opportunities, the contact in the contact role must also exist in account engagement to be available in Pardot for automations and lists. This is on the opportunity. I know that increasingly, I've been very surprised the number of companies that don't use contact roles and opportunities. It drives me a little bit crazy, to be honest. And that's because I'm on the marketing side. I want to be able to build automations and lists that says contact is associated with the opportunity and XYZ, so send them this cool email. The surprising thing is I can't do that. And I can't do that if the contact role is not fully used. Salesforce object integration, really quick. Contacts, accounts, opportunities and campaigns, and leads, default, sync. Anything outside of that, Pardot can't see out of the box. You have to use what's called a custom object integration. So orders, products, anything like that, that's a standard field. It's not standard to Pardot and would require an integration. It's very easy, but it does require a parent-child relationship between the object and the contact or the lead. So there has to be some lookup relationship to be able to associate the contact to the object so that Pardot can see it and leverage it. Data Cloud, I'm running out of time, but the very quick version is that Data Cloud does enable you to use Data Cloud segments to push it into account engagement to build more kind of cool segmentation. there's a lot of data here, but you guys can read it. The one thing I do really want to make sure to touch on is that account engagement offers sandboxes. This is newish, and the problem was that it did not offer any kind of change set or change set-like function. So you built it in Sandbox and then rebuilt it again in production, which is crazy pants. So the Winter 24 includes new capabilities to promote to production using API version 5 for Flow. So I've seen kind of a light version of this. It's still not perfect, but it's better than nothing. And so this is something that is going to be big. And instead, when you build something in a sandbox, you can now say, okay, I can move these 6 email templates or these 5 automations and so on. It's between this and then being able to pass assets between business units. These are the 2 things that are trying to make the functionality more kind of as one would expect. Not these gaping holes of like, why can't I promote to production? That's dumb. Why can't I? Now you can, sort of. So I realized I went through really fast. I was running out of time. Yep, there we go, right on time. Thank you. And yeah, I need to do my timesheet, everybody. And yeah, let's connect, LinkedIn, whatever. Thanks for having me. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'll be here over the next few days. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That was lightning round.